Hello and welcome into Talking Fantasy Baseball. I'm your host, Josh Day, and with me is Eric Hinrichsen. Hey Eric, how's it going?
Going good, going good. We are deep in preparations for our final draft of the leagues we play in together.
That's right.
We do a trade window, and we've been working very hard to make some trades this year. It's been a little bit more difficult than normal, but yeah, it's exciting. We had actual season baseball played in Tokyo last week. We've got
That's right.
opening day approaching, and we had a draft last Sunday, which was
That's
great.
right.
And I'm sorry, I just got to point out one thing. There was a manager who kept four outfielders and then drafted an outfielder with the fourth overall pick in the draft, and he can't play that player. I don't understand. It was
Yeah,
the
and
biggest fumble ever.
I think he drafted two other outfielders, so that's
Ugh. We do not recommend doing that. Don't do that.
no,
Four, five
definitely
at
not.
most. If you want to have one in your utility, you want to have one on your bench, cool. But like seven?
Yeah, that's outrageous.
And definitely don't waste your first pick on an outfielder when you already have four, because your utility spots already. Oh my god, it was an all-time fumble,
Oh yeah.
and it was just you and I were dying when we saw that. Anyway, so but
Yeah,
otherwise everything's great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. It's baseball season's almost here. Excited to talk to you today about recapping the Tokyo series, talking about Dodgers, Cubs, kind of seeing what we're seeing and what we're expecting from certain players to start this season. Also talking to you about spring training standouts, players like Bo Bichette, Ryan Mountcastle, and Christopher Sanchez. Also looking forward to playing the no name game with you.
Oh yeah, the no name game.
Yeah.
So that the no name game, we teased it last week. The no name game is going to be taking the stats of two different players, and maybe as we get into the season, we'll have a few more. But we took the stats over through a 3 year period of two different players. We took their names away. We just put the stats out there, and we're going to see if Josh can guess who each player is and who he would rather have. And then we'll attach the
Ooh.
names and see if he's made the right choice. And it'll be fun. It'll be fun. That's coming up later in the show. You got to stick around.
All right, let's get into talking the Tokyo series. Dodgers, Cubs. What did you see? Any takeaways from this?
Well, I think it's really hard to take too much away from two games on
Yeah.
another continent, essentially in the middle of spring training. I'm not the biggest fan of counting those games,
Yeah.
but it does give you a good insight into how managers might be using certain players, like their bullpens.
Hmm.
And we'll get to the
Yeah.
Dodgers bullpen specifically in a little bit. But some things that really stood out to me: Mookie Betts missed the series,
Yep.
a consensus like top five pick this year, multi
As
position
did Freeman.
eligibility. Yeah, as Freeman missed it too because of the ankle. But Mookie Betts missed it because of an illness that he allegedly
Hmm.
lost 15 pounds. And if you look at Mookie
Yeah.
Betts, where he's not like
He's
skinny, he's very athletically built. I don't know if he could lose 15 pounds. I don't know if he has that. Like I could lose 15
yeah.
pounds and be fine, but I don't know if Mookie could.
I guess I'd be concerned, like, is he gonna have a slow start? Is
Yeah.
he gonna have enough time now that the season has started for him? Is he gonna have enough time to build that up, build that muscle, build that strength back up? So I'm kind of wondering if he's gonna start slow. And well, we won't know that until, after drafts. But, I guess that'd be my concern is maybe
Yeah.
is he worth a first round pick? I think he's going to get taken in the first round, but like, is he more of like if he has a slow start, is he more of a second round pick? I think that would be my biggest concern,
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm
you
not
know?
really concerned about him at all. Maybe the first, 2, 3 weeks of April is a little slow for him as he gets back into rhythm, gaining the weight back, just starts to feel better. But honestly,
Yeah.
long term, not concerned about Mookie whatsoever. Another guy not concerned about whatsoever, and he showed why you should never be concerned about him. Shohei Ohtani, that man is
Yeah.
unbelievable. He
Yeah.
is just what he does. It's not just that he pitches in hits; it's that he is like one of the best at both,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is
for sure.
wild. So I just, there's not really much to talk about there. I just think Otani is unbelievable and just wanted to shout that out.
I actually like. not concerned at all about Otani the batter, but I'm a little concerned about Otani the pitcher. Like I wonder what how the Dodgers are planning to use him and
Yeah.
like for how much, like how long are his outings going to be? Are they going to be like 3 inning piggyback type scenarios? And as he's like ramping up, are they going to like not pitch him for several weeks? And like when is that going to be? So I think I'm out on him as a pitcher this season, maybe forever,
Mm,
honestly.
yeah, 2 Tommy Johns.
I mean, not to take anything away from him as an actual player, but in terms of fantasy, I
Yeah.
just don't know that I am ever going to invest in him as a pitcher at this point.
If he's a mid-3s ERA guy who puts up 120 innings in a season from now to the rest of his, end of his career, I think you'd be lucky to get that. 2 Tommy Johns is no joke. The success rate on the coming back to where you were after a second one is significantly lower than 1 Tommy John surgery.
Yeah,
And like you said, he plays for an organization that just messes around with pitchers, and they
yeah.
manipulate and do all this stuff. So yeah, I think I'm out on Otani as a pitcher as well. But just as a baseball player, he is ridiculous.
I think
And
one.
no, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna position to transition to a player, a Dodger I am concerned about would should be Freddie Freeman. He missed the series with I believe a rib issue. His ankle is still nagging, it sounds like, and
Yeah.
I've read that his workload, they're planning to manage his workload for the first half of the season. And Freeman, part of his appeal is that he plays so much, so it's like an accumulation play. And if he's not gonna be able to provide that, I just would be out on him as like a first round pick. I think he's maybe more of like a third round pick with this news. I'm just kind of out on him
Yeah, I don't blame
at
you.
his current price, his ADP price.
Now another guy who got some playing time as a result of Mookie missing time was Andy Pajes. I know he was a interesting name last year for some time. Didn't really do much in the Tokyo series. Still struck out, I think, 50% of the time. But again, it's the middle of spring training, but you're getting recorded stats. But I think the important
Mhm.
thing is he got the start with
Yeah.
Mookie out, right? Who knows? Maybe Andy Pajes is a little bit interesting. If you need an injury replacement, like similar to Conforto, who we talked about last week.
I think the thing with the Dodgers is like outside their superstars, like they just have so much depth that they mix and match so much. So I think to me it's hard to invest in anybody but those big superstars just
Yeah.
because like how much playing time are they actually going to have? Are they going to play themselves out of a role? As far as Pajes, like to me he seems like the perfect like stream for like Coors Field, you know?
Hey, you can win a head-to-head weekly matchup that way by streaming a player like that, who just has a good weekend series of course.
Yeah.
We focus on categories. We focus on head-to-head. That's a move you can make. That's a strategic
Hmm.
move that you can make any given week to try and win one or two categories, and then you take the week, and then you have an advantage at the end of the season when it comes to your head-to-head record against another manager,
Right.
right? So,
Yep.
little thing to keep an eye on during the season. But somebody who actually is way more interesting and relevant is Will Smith, the catcher.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people are writing Will Smith off.
Hmm.
I mean, yes, he had a terrible second half last year, but he was for 3, 4 years a very good top end, top 3, 4 catcher. And this year he's getting drafted like eighth or ninth.
He started off 2024 like scorching hot, I think for like the first month or two, and then he just like completely collapsed. However, during that stretch, he did maintain a 40% hard hit rate and an 11% barrel rate and 20% K rate with a 230 BABIP, which, that's bad luck. And he's been around a while, so to me, it just seems like he's absolutely worth investing in. I think he's a lock for 20 homers, a bunch of runs and RBI and a 250 batting average. So yeah, I think he's a great discount right now.
I would agree with you. I probably drafted a catcher too early last week. I drafted Cal Raleigh. I wanted the power. It was
Yeah.
probably not a great pick at the time, but I didn't like what else was on the board, and I think I just missed that Will Smith was there. Look, we're
Yeah.
we're we're here to tell you the good and the bad of what we do, right? Like learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
It happens. We're not perfect, but yeah, I think Will Smith is at a great discount right now.
Yeah.
And if he falls to you in your draft, don't hesitate.
Mhm.
Great lineup. He hit cleanup in Tokyo. He was 2 for 4 with 5 walks. I mean, that's amazing.
I'll take it.
Yeah, right? You play
Yeah.
in an OBP league or an OPS league. That's great.
Yep. Moving on to the arms, let's talk about the Dodgers bullpen.
Look, you saw Tanner Scott save the first game. I think the first game was representative of how Dave Roberts intends to use the bullpen, because you had Yamamoto go 5 innings, then you had Anthony Banda and Ben Kasparias pitch the 6th and 7th respectively, and then you had Trinan in the 8th and Scott in the 9th. Now, is Scott going to close every game for the Dodgers? No, that's just not how that organization functions. But
No.
if you have a big lefty up, like maybe Kyle Tucker was up in the 9th inning, then you have Tanner Scott coming in. But I think Scott Trinan and Kirby Yates, who pitched the 8th inning in the second game, are going to be your 3 highest leverage guys for the Dodgers. They've got a ton of them. It feels like all of their relievers are high leverage guys, but I really think that it's Scott, Trinan, and Yates as the pecking order to start the season. And then when Michael Kopech comes, I think he's more of like your multi-inning
Right.
earlier guy. I don't think he's going to
Yeah.
be your late inning guy.
Yeah, I think he's like the fireman.
I don't think you'll have any innings issues with the Dodgers pitchers because they only have to go 5 innings.
Right.
It's like back in the day when the Yankees had what Michael Kay termed Juan Gormo, Paul Quantrill, Tom Gordon, and Mariano Rivera. Starters only had to go 6, and they were going 6 at that time, right? It was more common for starters to go 6. That's all they had to do. And then it was lights out bullpen with Paul Quantrill, Tom Gordon, and Mariano Rivera. And I think you have even more weapons in this Dodgers bullpen.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment. I think in strictly saves leagues, Scott is the one to target. But if you're in a holds plus saves, I think there's a lot to go off of here, like Yates, Trinan, and Kopech, for sure. We were talking about a lot of Dodgers. Let's turn our attention over to the Cubs now. Justin Steele, what were your impressions of his outing?
Again, middle of spring training. He only threw 67 pitches in the game. Maybe because he was getting his clock cleaned, right? He gave up 5 runs in 4 innings.
Yeah.
But look, I think Justin Steele is coming at a really good discount. He's over the last 2 years, he's been an ace in disguise. And while he doesn't have massive K numbers, I think you can depend on him for solid ratios and quality starts. So I think that while he did not have a very good game against the Dodgers, which will be a theme for most pitchers this year, I think he's coming at a really great discount. So he might be somebody you want to target.
I think based on his track record over the past couple of seasons, he's still a solid pickup. He throws, fastballs and sliders 90% of the time. But he has held a steady, 24 to 25 K rate, and a career best 216 batting average against last season. And I think he should absolutely be viewed as at least a number 3 SP in mixed leagues.
I really like Steele. Like I said, he's kind of under the radar, because he's not flashy. He was never a big name.
Right.
And I think those are the players that win you leagues. Because everybody goes after the big brand names. But if you can find the sneaky guy who gives you the same value, then that's who you want to target. And that feels like a no-name game maybe in the future.
Let's talk about Steele's teammate, who also pitched in the series, Shota Imanaga.
I don't think Imanaga is going to be an ace like he was last season. He overperformed his peripheral numbers. I mean, he was pitching at home in Tokyo. He should have been amped up. Now, he gave up no runs against the Dodgers, right? But he had 4 walks. He threw 69 pitches. Again, like you said, though, it's hard to evaluate pitchers. Unlike Steele, who was like sneaky good, I don't think Imanaga is sneaky good. I think he's actually sneaky bad. He's a
Oh,
fly
really?
ball. Yeah, he's a fly ball pitcher.
Yeah, nice.
I just don't want to buy into a guy who overperformed his peripherals last year
Hmm.
and got lucky with the thing that he's bad at.
Yeah, I would say with Imanaga, Homer is that's my biggest concern. From my understanding, Wrigley, it varies season to season whether it's plays as a pitcher's park or a hitter's park. And last season, it played a lot like a pitcher's park. So I think that helped to mitigate home runs for him, at least early on. I think they eventually started catching up with him. So with his fly ball tendency that's kind of baked into his game, I do worry about home runs. I still think he's talented, and I think he's got, an expansive arsenal. I think he should give you solid whip and K numbers, top 30 SP maybe. But I think he's going to come with a high-ish threes ERA.
There was just one other player I wanted to highlight from the Cubs because, again, we didn't see much. The Dodgers have a lot more to talk about. They have a lot more fantasy relevant players. Obviously, the Cubs have some interesting pieces: Kyle Tucker, Suzuki, Happ, right? But Matt Shaw is a buzzy name as a high
Yeah,
end prospect who made the team out of spring training. He made the trip to Tokyo.
yeah.
JD, as someone who has Matt Shaw in the
Mhm.
draft that we just did last week, what did you think of his series? Because I'll say, wasn't necessarily the most impressive.
No, but I'm excited to see a prospect of his pedigree get the call, and for an organization to throw down and invite him to start the season. I will say he seemed a bit overmatched in Tokyo, just going 1 for 9 with 4 Ks and 0 walks. But I think it's unfair to judge him too harshly based on this series. He does. If you look at his minor league numbers, he has some serious upside, and with so many rookie call-ups over the past few seasons, there's often an adjustment period. Happened to Jackson Churio, Gunnar Henderson, Bobby Witt Jr. I'm not saying Matt Shaw will necessarily ascend to their greatness, but I think it's just a cautionary tale that just because these guys are hyped prospects doesn't mean they're going to hit the ground running right away. So, I think they're worth late round targets. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited for this call up.
High upside play, power speed combo. He has now, I think, 8 major league at bats in the middle of spring training.
Yep.
Give the kid a break. Let's see how he adjusts. Check those underlying numbers, check the contact metrics, check his quality of contact, see
Right.
if he's actually adjusting to major league pitching and we're just not seeing the results.
He has guaranteed playing time too, which I think is really
Right.
important.
Target him late in the draft. You don't have to overspend for him, especially with a poor showing in Tokyo. He'll probably have his stock fall a little bit, right? So just
Yep.
give him a break. 8 at bats, people.
With spring training winding down, this is our last episode before the real start of the season. Let's talk about a few players who maybe have seen their stock fall over the last few years that are having some redemption this spring. Bo Bichette had kind of a miserable season, to put it mildly, in 2024, but this spring he's really picking things up.
Yeah, Bo Bichette's having an amazing spring. He's got 4 homers, 9 RBIs. He's run twice. I think that's interesting to see.
Yeah.
Now, as we talked about in our very first episode, his op qual is 6.8, but this is a guy, he's a pro, he's a seasoned vet at this point in his career. I think he just had an injury plagued season last year. That being said, calves are no joke. You and I have talked about this at length when it came to Josh Donaldson, where he just couldn't shake this calf injury.
Oh, yeah.
It's entirely possible that the same thing happens with Bo Bichette, but we have seen all the numbers just decrease over the last 4
Yeah.
years. That being said, he's having an amazing spring, so he might be healthy, and maybe injuries have just plagued him, and we haven't really heard about them for a couple seasons. And that, maybe he's really just a 20 homer guy who can hit, 280. Actually, he might be Carlos Correa. The no-name game should be interesting. If later in the season they might be comparable.
That's true.
He's just,
Yeah,
there's talent, and where he's going in drafts, he might be worth taking a shot on. Just be sure to take a backup.
yeah. It's hard to tell what he's going to be in 2025. There's something to be said about fantasy sports in general and recency bias. It seems
Oh
like
yeah.
players don't get the benefit of a doubt with especially players with track records. So if they've just had like a miserable season, suddenly they're finished, even though they're in their prime and they've demonstrated their talent. So I think that's why there's always discounts every season, is because players just it's just the nature of the sport. They get underrated. I will say that his spring is encouraging and his track record, I don't think should be thrown out. So I would buy him based on where he's going, especially if you don't have a shortstop in the back half of, the first 10 rounds. I think he's a great bargain.
You would buy him. You bought him in the draft.
I did. That's
You
right.
did. You did.
I
Sniped him right from under me because he was my strategy. And you got him.
I don't know how much stock you can put in this kind of thing, but it's his it's a contract year for him. So he kind of needs to prove it, especially after last season, if he's going to get that payday. So I
I
do
would put
think,
stock into that.
yeah, I think he does have incentive to play a lot this season and perform. So
Yeah.
I'm a Bo believer. Another player we want to highlight is Ryan Mountcastle.
Okay, so much like our evaluation of Conforto last week, where we talked about, he's getting this excitement because he's on the Dodgers. Ryan Mountcastle is getting a lot of excitement this preseason because the Orioles moved the fences back in left field. Baltimore has come down, and maybe Mountcastle is juiced up for it. Not that kind of juice. Excitement kind of juice.
Yeah, what are you alluding to, Eric?
He's got 5 homers and 14 RBIs this spring. Look, everyone has always wanted Ryan Mountcastle to be this giant power hitter after his rookie season where he hit 33 home runs. I just don't think he's that guy. I think he's more of like a 20 to 25 homer guy. I think this year for Mountcastle, you're probably looking very much like 2022. And 2022 was the last season before they changed the wall in left field. 2022, 250 batting average, 277 xBA, which is his expected batting average. 2023 hit 270, xBA of 273. Last year hit 271, xBA of 272. So I think he's a 270 hitter. What do you think?
Yeah.
But his barrel percentage has gone down every year, but his hard hit percentage has stayed very consistent at about 45%. So what I think he did was he stopped trying to hit home runs at home. And so you may see that start to go back up, where his launch angle will go back up. His barrel rate will go back up because he's still hitting the ball just as hard as he was. I'm going to take 22 homers, 85 RBIs, maybe slightly better batting average, maybe a few more RBIs because now he's got a better supporting cast around him. But yeah, I think he's probably a good fallback option when it comes to injury replacements or handcuffing.
So my question is is he guaranteed the at bats as like a starting first baseman, or is he going to be in and out of the lineup, especially if it gets cold? But yeah, I think you're right. He can be a great waiver wire pickup if your first base is scuffling, which, very well could, because it seems like a very shallow position this season. All right, well, moving on to definitely not an injury replacement, Alex Bregman, now with the Boston Red Sox.
I just didn't quite understand that signing, but I can't see the situation as far, if we're just going to evaluate ballpark situation, I can't see it being much different than Houston because, you have the Green Monster there, which is not very far away. It's high up, kind of like the Crawford boxes in Houston. So honestly, I think I think you're looking at the exact same Alex Bregman that you've gotten for the last few years. It's very vanilla. It's not very exciting, but he's one of those players who's just gonna play every day, and you know exactly what you're gonna get from him. He's very predictable.
Now, you say vanilla as what, a third baseman? Do you think it's a little more exciting if he's a second baseman?
Yes, actually, way more exciting if he's a second baseman.
Yeah,
I'd also be interested to see if he gets shortstop eligibility because
that's
Trevor
true.
Story is
Yeah.
not necessarily going to stay healthy. We don't know if they're going to call up Max Meyer. And Christian Campbell did not look ready. So there's a good chance that Bregman may have two more position eligibility by June.
It
And
could, yeah.
then he's very interesting. 260,
Yeah,
20, 25 homers, up to 100 RBIs. That's
yep.
extremely interesting, especially at second
That'd be
base. That would be,
that'd
I
be
think
like
that'd be the dream.
top five. That'd be great,
Oh, top
I
five
would
second
say.
baseman easily. May
Easily.
even be top three.
Yeah.
Name another one other than Ketel Marte and Mookie Betts. If Mookie Betts has second base in your league, name another one. Albies, maybe. That's it.
When I first heard that he might gain second base eligibility, I was very interested. Because I've been a little out on Bregman over the past couple seasons just
Yeah,
because
because he's vanilla, right?
he's lost steam. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not the shiny new
well,
toy.
and also ever since the cheating scandal, but that's
Oh,
another
yeah.
story. But yeah, I a new team context, second base. I mean, I invested in him in our 12 team league, so I'm pretty happy with it based on that league size context. But second base would be amazing.
I think if he gets second base eligibility, you just struck gold with that pick.
All right, well, moving on. Let's talk about a pitcher. Christopher Sanchez is all the buzz this spring. What are your thoughts on Christopher Sanchez?
I want to preface it with this. When a pitcher starts throwing harder all of a sudden, I think you need to take a step back and think, is that good for them? Because we talked about how pitchers maxing out on velocity all the time for as long as they can leads to injury. So when you have a guy suddenly throwing harder, probably going to lead to injury, right? At some point, major or minor, could be forearm strain, could be Tommy John, could be a shoulder injury, could just be shoulder fatigue. There's going to be an injury at some point. That's just the way pitching works these days. So Christopher
Yeah.
Sanchez is throwing harder. That's a red flag to me. It just is. Sure, it might help him be a better pitcher. It might help him take the next step, but at some point, it's going to come back to bite him because there's only so many mechanical things you can do to get yourself to throw as hard as possible before you actually start putting way too much stress on your body. So that's a long preface. That is all to say, I'm not a big Christopher Sanchez guy. The K rate hasn't been there over the last couple of years. I like guys that have more than 1K per nine. And while he's shown that this spring, I just see a giant red flag with harder velocity and a guy who I wasn't too thrilled on to begin with. Now I'm definitely out.
My concern would be that is he able, since this is new for him as a pitcher, is he going to be able to sustain this throughout an entire season? Is he going to hit the ground running with this velocity to start the season, but then is he going to just peter out mid-season and then just kind of turn into a pumpkin? I guess it could be argued that you just take that, you look at him realistically, you're like, sure, maybe he sustains this and is, lights out for the first 2, maybe 3 months, and then he turns back to who he was or, gets injured. I don't know. But I think if you look at it realistically, maybe that's worth your time.
There may be a strategic shift happening in fantasy baseball where you just get everything you can out of a pitcher.
Right.
And just look for their replacement as the season goes along, or look for the guy who's coming up. Like Bubba Chandler. I don't know if he's going to make the Pirates rotation, but maybe he's a guy that you target to pick up as an injury replacement or as a stash at the end of your draft. And I'd say, get what you can out of your pitchers. I mean, that's what major league coaching staffs and organizations are doing, and then just go from there. Because the injuries are just too hard to predict. So get the best guys you can, get what you can out of them, and then figure it out. We'll walk you through that, as the season progresses because we'll experience guys getting hurt. I drafted Tyler Glass now. He's going to get hurt at some point. It's just going to happen. But if I can get 130 or 140 innings out of him, I'm still, even without an innings limit in a head-to-head, categories league, I'm still going to get tremendous value because he's going to help me win those weeks that he's healthy. And then when he's not healthy, I just got to figure it out. Maybe I'll have some surplus of talent somewhere else that I can trade for another pitcher, or maybe I just stream guys that are hot at that time, or stream guys that have good matchups. But yeah, the position is really hard to predict. But and when you see a guy throwing harder, you just know something is coming. Jacob
Mhm.
deGrom is the poster child for it. He's one day just showed up one year throwing 3 to 4 miles an hour faster, and he has not been healthy since. So,
I
um,
mean, also look what just happened to Jared Jones.
there you go. It's not good to just put an infinite amount of stress on your body. I understand you want to throw 98, but if you throw 95 with perfect location, it doesn't matter if you throw 98 or 95.
Let's play some no name game.
I,
What do you
I,
say?
yeah,
Or what do I say? Since I'm
yeah,
playing it.
yeah, you're playing.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I would love to come up with like a little jingle. The no name game.
Ooh, hey,
Right?
I think we're onto something.
So what I did was, in preparation for today's podcast, I took two players who I thought were pretty similar, but may or may not be far apart in ADP, that I know have lingering questions coming into this season, and I put together their stats from the last 3 years. The major ones: home runs, RBIs, runs, batting average, OPS, stolen bases, and then for fun, I put K percentage on there because we like to talk about contact metrics and quality of contact. So I wanted to throw one of those in there that I knew was close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off the stats for player A and player B. You tell me who you'd rather have, and then I want you to try and guess who each one of them is. And now these stats are from 2022 to 2024. So the last 3 years of stats. Player A, 120 home runs, 337 RBI, 278 runs scored, with a 243 batting average, an 826 OPS, 12 stolen bases, and a 22.1% K rate. So that's player A.
All right.
Player B, 117 home runs, 340 RBI, 291 runs scored, 257 batting average, 862 OPS, just one stolen base, and a 24% K rate. So,
oh wow, that's really close.
it is. It's really close. You have 3 homer difference, 3 RBI difference, 13 runs scored difference, 14 points of batting average, 40 points of OPS, 11 stolen bases, but just a 2% strikeout difference. So, who would you rather have? Player A, player B, and tell me why.
God, this is tough. I'm a sucker for power and speed, so I think my initial impulse is to go with the 120, 12 stolen bases. Even though, like, what's 12 stolen bases?
Yeah, especially over 3 years.
But then, like, I'm like, well, do I want the batting average and the higher OPS? Is that where I should be? Seems like they're like middle of the order power guys, I would guess.
I mean, 120 homers over 3
Yeah.
seasons is a 40 homer average.
With power guys, I tend to like the ones that are going to keep me afloat batting average wise and not be a liability. I mean, 243 isn't awful while maintaining a 800 OPS, but I don't know. I think I'd probably just I'd probably go. I think I'd follow my heart and go with player A.
Okay, you're selecting player A. Here, I'll ask you one more question before you guess who they are. Who do you think has the higher ADP out of these two?
I think maybe player B.
Okay. All right. Now, who is each player? Player A, again, 120 homers, 337 RBI, 278 runs scored, 243 batting average, 826 OPS, 12 stolen bases, 22% K rate. Who is player A, Josh?
Now, how does this game work? Is it like I have like 3 guesses, or is it like a 20 question game? Like,
I'll give
what
you.
are the parameters?
Good question. I'll give you 3 guesses to get each player correct.
All right. Well, I kind of think middle of the order power guys. I'm gonna guess they're either first or third baseman.
Okay. One
I'll
of
go
those
off
is
that
correct.
hunch.
One of those is correct.
Yes. Let's see. First guy, because of steals, maybe Bryce Harper,
Okay.
Manny Machado,
Okay. And third guess.
Pete Alonso.
So for player A, you've guessed Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, and Pete Alonso. And now for player B, 117 homers, 340 RBI, 291 runs scored, 257 batting average, 862 OPS, 1 stolen base, 24% K rate. Josh, who is player B?
Is it? I think Austin Riley has better batting average. Maybe.
So guess number 2.
This is tough.
Yeah, this is the fun part of the no name game. Who's left that you could guess for B? Austin Riley. Okay, that's 1.
What about Matt Olson?
Okay. And your third guess for player B?
Jake Berger? No, I don't think. I'll just say Jake Berger. I don't think that's it. But
well, I could tell you one thing. It is definitely not Jake Berger, but you did guess correctly for one of your 3 guesses for both players. So you said player B has the higher ADP as well. You are correct there.
Ooh.
And you are correct in saying that the position is either first or third base. They are both first basemen. They both have strikingly similar ADPs. When I looked that up, I was like, oh man, I wish they were a little farther apart. But this is a really good comparison because depending on how your draft goes, depending on where you pick in the order, you may very well be able to wait around before taking player A. Player B is, drumroll please, Matt Olson. You guessed correct. Player B is Matt Olson.
Nice.
And player A, like I said, you may be able to wait around to get this player is, drumroll, Pete Alonso.
Oh, hey.
Now, I picked these 2 guys on purpose because both are coming off of down years. Matt Olson is 1 season removed from being a stud, like the number 2 fantasy ranked hitter, right? Where he just had an unbelievable 2023 season. And Pete Alonso, I know you particularly wrestled with keeping him in the league that we drafted last week. And you decided not to, but you did draft him because you had the first pick overall. You did draft him as your first pick. And I just want you to know that you did not make a bad pick and a bad choice there because, first of all, that lineup is improved, but he's not that far off from Matt Olson, who I have as a staple keeper in my lineup.
That's right.
Right? So the numbers, the counting stats, not far off at all. These guys are just so strikingly similar.
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't think so going into this.
Yeah, I usually think of Matt Olson as slightly higher end than Alonso, but yeah, it's very, very similar when you stack them on top of each other like this.
So I just thought this was a very fun exercise to do. I can't wait to do that again, where maybe next time you'll put together a couple players and I will. I'll guess who they are, and we'll be able to take players' stats from this current season, and you can see where you might be able to get some value. If you have to do a 1-for-2 trade to fill a hole in your roster, and you might get some sneaky value back. I think this is a fun exercise, and the no name game, everyone.
Hey,
play that jingle that we don't have yet.
Get that sting going. Well, that does it for this episode. Next time, we'll highlight opening weekend, some interesting developments coming out of the tail end of spring training. So be sure to tune in next week. Please subscribe. We're available on all major podcast platforms. Give us a like, 5-star rating, a kind review. We will read all of them. If there's anything you want us to talk about, drop us a message. I'm Josh. He's Eric. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Enjoy opening day.